wanna do now is making it last. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together.
So that's the first thing, maintaining that trust level with your friend and keeping that personalization. It's not an attack on you or even your friendship.
That's the voice of Pastor Latoya Wright, mother of 3 amazing kids. But let me tell you what I love about this woman. She's real. Listen in, this is Making It Last, and we're continuing a conversation that we started, and it's all about how to trust again after being sexually abused. I'm Noreen Daly. Let's continue this conversation.
Stop projecting your own self-righteousness on people. And the other thing that we do is we pity people within them sharing their story. And most of the times that's not what we need. So we use words like, "Aw, that never happened to me," or "that would never happen to me," or "only in those places those things happen," where we diminish people and their experiences, and we put ourselves on a pedal, right? And that is the other thing that will cut someone out. They will not come to you.
Yeah.
For any kind of conversation after that, because you have made them know that in your eyes, you are bigger than them.
Okay.
And their situation has actually even brought them down a notch from where you had them before. So if you were besties before, the condescending tone that we use when we talk to people can make them feel like they're in the gutter, and they're not going to put themselves around energy like that.
I know that sometimes I will hear of certain situations, maybe abuse. What advice do you have for somebody like me who we don't have the professional training to so what would you tell us when people consider us safe spaces and share certain things? What would be your advice to us?
So the key languages are verbal and physical language.
Okay.
So I'll start with physical language because that's what we look for first.
Okay.
All right. If I'm coming to tell you something that's very deep and that hurts, before you open your mouth, I'm looking at your eyes. I'm looking at how your body is going to respond to me. And that's my indicator on whether I should move forward with my conversation.
Okay.
Sometimes we will roll our eyes, right? Or tighten up our body, or fold our arms, right? That tells me you're locking up.
Okay.
And you're judging me already by your facial expressions. Your mouth roll up, or you suck your teeth, or you shiver yourself. That's already language that speaks louder than whatever words you say, because it tells me the true way my story is affecting you.
Okay.
Because we can cover up with words, that's fluff. But your eyes, the way your eyes look at me can tell me whether you're really in my pain with me or whether you feel that I am the worst person on the planet. That's one. And that's key. For those of us who are traumatized, kids do that too, If they've done something wrong, they look to see their parents' body language before they start telling them. And they could know whether they're going to get in trouble or a whooping or not. And so the art of keeping yourself relaxed and inviting is number one. The second thing, there are key things to say. First thing is always just say, "I'm sorry this happened to you."
Okay.
That if you never say anything else and you just let that person sit with you in their tears and no other words are said, which sometimes is the best thing to do. You just reaffirm to them that this is not your fault. This doesn't change who you are. I am here for you, and I'm really sorry this happened to you. And just leave it alone. We don't have to have a psychological degree or a counseling degree to be empathetic. Empathy is, it may not have happened to me, but we can share pain because everybody has experienced pain. So let me find the place that's hurting you the most. And if I can relate that to a pain I've been in, I can share with you that space. That's empathy. Compassion is the other thing. Compassion basically says, I'm going to show you kindness in the midst of your worst. And so I can show compassion to someone who comes and says, I've been raped, by holding their hands, by sitting on the floor with them, by body touch, or by just them seeing me, looking them right in the eye, that I'm here with you. That's compassion. And then the other thing is just knowing that there's some things you just don't say to people. You don't ask them what they did. You don't ask them, are you sure there's not something? Think really hard. There's something that you may have said, that you may have done, that would have caused them to think that you were giving them permission to do this to you. You're not a psychoanalyst. It is not your job to try to help someone rationalize
something.
Our job is to make sure that they're out of the danger zone of feeling that they are alone and that there's no hope, so that we can reduce the suicide rates. We can reduce the self-harming that people do, whether it's by drinking and you don't know about it, or drugs, or cutting, or just cutting themselves off from emotions. It is our job to make sure that these people know that they're not alone. And they don't have to move to destructive ways of coping when you sit down there and you can't even help them cope because you're yourself more mad that it happened to them as if it happened to you. And it turns into this other mission, you know? So.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add? I mean, we elaborated just now, or added a lot in terms of the whole idea of being a safe space. But, you know, anything else in from your own experience, how you learn to trust again?
So I'm a Christian, right? Okay. And so people use many different coping mechanisms. For me, it was my faith. For someone else, it could be a support group. For someone else, it could be service, helping their community, or helping other people who have gone through something like them. Even getting certified in being a peer, you know, or a facilitator for a support group. For me, it was my faith and education.
Okay.
So I went and I got a criminal justice degree. Why? Because I need to know the system. So when I speak, I'm not talking just from what I think, but I want the skill set to be able to know the laws and to be able to decipher between what laws, what state has to protect women or children. Also, I work with young people. And so my degree concentrates in juveniles and the drug, you know, and all of that. So I went to educate myself so that I can speak intellectually. And it would open other doors to give me exposure to platforms where within my story, it's not just a quote unquote victim speaking, but it is a woman who has defied the odds and she has empowered herself to be able to really speak truth to her story so that others can see they can come out of it too. Within my faith, I'm also getting an MDiv, you know, as a spiritual leader, but I'm coupling that by getting a dual degree in social work.
For those who don't know what a MDiv is,
Oh, sorry.
Masters of Divinity.
Divinity, yes. So, AKA pastor. But coupling that with the social work degree now allows me to be able to be in communities and help within that realm. And any other degree or certification that I see, I'm now certified in youth mental health CPR. So that means if someone is in the height of a crisis or a trauma, I am certified to be able to bring them down to ground zero before they get the help or while help is coming. So if someone is suicidal, I am trained to talk them off the ledge and then connect them to the help that they need. So I'm not a counselor, a certified counselor, but we know how to talk to individuals and just get them to the place where they don't think they're hopeless. But basically, we're there with them in their pain.
Okay.
And I also have another degree that a certification I just got in resilience from trauma. And that is helping people come out of that traumatic zone where it starts to now affect their bodies health-wise and take them back into the normal range before help comes. So for me, instead of being in a victim state and just wallowing in it and woe is me, I was like, let me empower myself so that when I speak, I can add substance to my story. And then in turn, I find that I'm healing more. And it's through those things that I learned about my mom. You know, it didn't just come out from anywhere, but educating yourself. And that helps you to trust people, because when you start realizing that there's so many dynamics involved with trauma, part of healing is you have to learn to trust again, because I have to show them that you can trust me in order for me to help them. And I can't do that unless I start to instill trust back.
As we're wrapping up, somebody could be listening to this and saying, yes, I get the impression that you have access to all of this formal education. I'm
Right.
sitting here in my room, I'm driving along, and I might not have access to all of these different things that you're talking about. What then would be your response to that person?
That's a really, really good question. I believe that within our village, our immediate village, that we can find someone. There is someone that we probably can't trust, just because of how our village system is set up. There is never within our community that we can't trust everybody. That's just not a fact. Our trauma will tell us that. Our pain will tell us that we can't trust anyone based on one person's violation of our space. But that is not necessarily the case. That is the story we tell ourselves. And the stories we tell ourselves are always to protect ourselves from the pain, but it's not the truth. So there is always someone that you can trust. And I feel that because of the intersection of relationships that we've been in, we normally would know or have an idea of who that person is. And so if we can just, or if you're listening, just take the time to stop, take a couple of deep breaths, and just release your mind and think, who was the last person that I know without the shadow of the doubt that I've spoken to or interacted with that has been a safe space for me? And wherever your mind takes you to, that's probably the person you are probably 100% going to get a good reception from, and that empathy and compassion that you need. And go to that person. So it's calming down, and there's a technique that I learned from Brene Brown that the Army actually uses to calm people down when they're hyperventilating. So you breathe in for a count of 4. You hold it for a count of 4. You breathe out for a count of 4, and you hold it out for a count of 4. That allows the oxygen to circulate fully through your body and go to the organs that are being depleted from oxygen when we go into a state of panic and fear. And it calms you down, and you start to breathe, to think better. And so as your mind is trying to find that person, if you do that technique, most of the time your mind is clear and the information that you really need comes in. So just try that. And you could do it as many times as you want. That's I use that a lot. It even helps me in my classes when I'm freaking out with my professors. But if I start to, your mind always tells you that first story, it's always wrong. It's always negative. It's always the crappy story. That's the word that we're told. So the first thing your mind tells you within your pain is not true.
Yeah.
Do that breathing exercise and release. And then normally the second or third thing that comes in is really what the truth is.
Thank you so much, Latoya. The conversation was how to trust again after being sexually abused. So much was said. If you missed it, this is then your opportunity to rewind and just listen. But if you got nothing else, one of the things that will resonate with me is that we need to ensure that we work on being safe spaces for individuals. It might not be sexual abuse, but we have a lot of people around us who are going through their different quote unquote stuff. Let us be kind. Let us be open. This was Making It Last podcast. I'm your host, Noreen Daly. Until next time, and it's all about helping you to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people.
You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.